Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video we're doing a quicker review of the Brisbane Lions, or preview of the Brisbane Lions AFL Fantasy 2024 season and their players, going through who are probably going to be relevant, even though there's really no one with the early buy. They didn't bring anyone in the trade period of fantasy relevance. They're rookies from last year that could have a second year breakout, a sort of injured in Ashcroft, and also they have, as I said, the early buy, and they didn't draft anyone really of note that'll be relevant, and we don't really know the rookies. Well, they could be relevant because they're like 200k or whatever, but it's not like they brought in the McKercher or the Sanders or anyone like that, as they will be relevant round one, those guys, whereas the rookies that we bring from Brisbane will be the ones that we get a sighter on in their first game and then bring them in after that. But this one's probably going to be a shorter one just because of those reasons. But remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on as we return back to probably a sort of 1 to 2 p.m. release time with my Team Reveal 2.0 and my also the primos and mid prices from all the lines. It probably will be, like always, just a full ruck one. So there will be 7 videos in total if I counted correctly. 2 videos on each of the 3 lines, and then the 1 ruck video adds up to 7. So those will come out in the next week once we get through the Adelaide and then also Team Review 2.0. And yeah, so that is sort of the plan for the next week. And then yeah, so let's jump into this video. So Josh Dunkley, first guy up here, priced at 942, and I don't really see much upside, to be honest. With him priced at 104, has the really early buy that makes it pretty much pointless to get any of the Brisbane rookies in. As priced at 104, don't really take much notice of the L3 and L5. There is countless reasons for that. Like, yes, he does have an L3 of 80, but Brisbane were trying to... well, they were already in finals, as well as the fact that L3 and L5, without a major change in dynamics or role change, i.e. the role change with Hayden Young, to be honest. With Freo, you can look a little bit into that, but outside of that, it's the sample size of 3 and 5 games comparatively to 21 games is almost so small that you're going to get major it is highly likely that you're going to get major variations, and the 80 and the 91.2, 91.8 we're literally one big Dunkley performance away from that looking normal or something like that, and he scored a 61 on one of them. What about if that's an 80 or something like that? That'll bump those stats up to 90 and a 110, 100 for, sorry, that would bump his L3 up to probably an 88 and his last 5 up to like almost a 96, 97. So you can't really take much into account with that, to be honest with you. And he does have 1 injury game, which was a 72 on 56% time on ground in round 16. So taking that away, if you will, because I like to show what a player without an injury will actually is regularly scoring. It's a 106 for him, so basically no upside. With the mid-only role and with no Ashcroft in the side. And I believe this one is one that you can actually look at because it is, I believe, 7 or 8 games without Ashcroft in the side. So it is more, it's a bigger sample size, slightly bigger. And it also is a role change in itself, or not a role change, but a dynamics flip in that I believe if I just quickly bring it up here, if I just go to DFS, here you will see CBAs, and we'll flick it over to Brisbane. You'll see what I mean in that it wasn't necessarily a role change for Dunkley without Ashcroft, but it was the Hugh McCluggage coming in that I think had a little bit of an effect. And then if we actually look at Josh Dunkley, open this in a new tab here, and then you'll see, I think this is the same across everything. You'll sort of see, if we actually go here and go down to, when was the last game with Ashcroft in? It was round 19, so round 20 onwards. If we go like that, I believe, does that help? You'll see here 8 games without Will Ashcroft for a 91.4, which just sort of shows it shows that he's a little bit down, but it's not too fancy relevant, I believe. And my stats actually have it at 91.8 in the regular season with it. If you just knock out, I believe it's these 3 games. 91.8 in the regular season, and then it rounds out to 91.4 in 8 games without him. So looking at that, 8 games is a lot more sort of sample size rather than the sort of 5, and I think it was 5 that we actually had, was it? Yeah, something like that. 5 without Dunkley. Sorry, without Ashcroft. So it is you can see a slight more trend, and it was a 108 with him. So it's a 91 without and a 108 with. So there is sort of that sort of a trend progressing there, but I don't think it's too much relevance, to be honest. I'd like to see another 5 or so games with that. If you get up towards that 10 to 15 game range with this still actually occurring, then you could say it's a shift, and maybe it's because McCluggage plays a very similar game style to Josh Dunkley, and that's the reason why it's occurring. Is there any sort of shift in... I don't really see much of a shift in anything other than just disposals are down necessarily, I think. Is that what I'm seeing? I can't really... because it's not a distinct... The marks, it could actually be the marks that are actually down. Looking at it here, 655, 132. Yeah, I think it is the marks are down slightly actually looking at it, because he had 965. I think it's the marks that are actually down, and not really the tackling too much actually. So maybe McCluggage is just taking a couple of those marks away from Dunkley, but that is about the only thing I can actually see personally from this Dunkley without Ashcroft. But I don't think many will actually go for him because he's 2.55% owned, I believe. If we go over here, 2.55% owned at the moment, and he's got that really extremely early buy where you can just sort of almost get him after the buy anyway. So I just don't think Josh Dunkley is of value to anyone. Next up is Lachie Neale, and basically he's a Brownlow medalist. You know what he's going to do. If you look at the CBAs, you'll see that, what is he last year? 87% last year. So he was crazy in the centre last year. And then year before that, 85%. Year before this, only 83, but I think that was an injury game that caused that. And then the year before that, he was 90% in the shortened season. That makes sense anyway. But you can see that he's going to be an 85% plus sort of guy, and his role hasn't changed over the last 3 seasons. So I expect him to be somewhere between that. I expect the Brownlow curse to hit him just slightly, not as much as it hit Ollie Wines and Patrick Cripps of recently, but I expect it to sort of hit him a little, and to see him drop maybe like 3 or 4 points down to mid-90s. If we look at, here we go, and I did sort of mess this up a little bit. Where is he? Lachie Neale. I was on him. So here we go. And then we go to fantasy profile, get rid of that ad. And you can see here sort of how he sort of fluctuates a little bit. I would expect him to drop to 95, 94 and not really have too much of an impact. But I just wouldn't be selecting him because of the early buy, and I don't really see there being much value there, being he's going to be almost 31 by the time the season starts. So that pretty much rounds out the primos for Brisbane, as McCluggage, don't see there being much value there at all. Zorko, he's a hamstring away from retiring. Jared Lyons just cannot get into the side. Ashcroft injured. McInerney, there's better rucks, and that's sort of where his value sits, in the mid to high 80s. Joe Danaher, he's a key forward, don't pick him. Jared Berry, 22 games, 74, don't really see there being much of a bump, to be honest with you. If we look at the CBAs for Brisbane in 2023, if we look here, you can't even see Jared Berry getting any CBA jump in at all, so I just wouldn't be selecting him. Zach Bailey is a mid-forward. He's going to get some CBA time, but I don't think he'll get too much CBA time, to be honest with you. Zach Bailey, 23%, and that is mostly because he had time when Hugh McCluggage was out, and also Jared Lyons wasn't playing, so he was sort of playing that fourth midfielder role for a couple games here, as you can see, as well as the game that they had. Or is it fourth midfielder or third midfielder? It looks like at times is the fourth and third midfielder, as you can see. So interesting look at there, but not really interested, to be honest, with Zach Bailey. Then we go up to Kitty Coleman. And this is sort of one that I probably actually should have done a little bit of research on, but I will quickly duplicate this so I can flick it around a little bit to find Kitty Coleman and his stats here. And the one thing I will say about Kitty Coleman is there is going to be a lot of hype around him just because of the grand final performance where he was 100 at halftime. And a lot will say that you can take a lot out. I don't think you can take a lot out of that performance. Yes, he played well on the day, but sometimes you just get the ball. It's as simple as that. He had 8 marks, 6 tackles, filled up the stat sheet with 26 touches, but he ended up at 127, 106. If we look at the last sort of games for the season and we slowly average it out, and let's just take his last 15 games, for instance. That's a good sample size. He averages 80. If we take away, and that is a good sample size, and that is away from the last 5 that I've been trying to use a little bit, but or was using in the past for a couple of my previews. But last 15 games, he's averaged 80. What's he coming in priced at? He's coming priced at 70. So there's 10 points of upside there, potentially. And a lot of people will use the Rich retirement. He played 7 games. Like there was little to no influence from Daniel Rich on the Kitty Coleman sort of scoring. If we look at the kick-outs now, if we look in the kick-in, and then we go to Brisbane. Then we go to here, and you'll see Connor McKenna there. Daniel Rich as well had a huge influence in the round 1, but you can see sort of here didn't have much of an influence from round 13 onwards. So if we actually look at round 13 onwards for Kitty Coleman, and we take away that, he averaged 83. So there's a little bit of a bump, and he also had an injured game in there that looks like, so an injured game. So take out the injured game, and he gets up to 88.8. So you're starting to get to, yes, it sort of did take away from what I was pointing out, but 12 games without having an influence of Daniel Rich at all, 12 games, 88.8. And he's got the early bye. I reckon if he goes 88 and then 88, what's he going to be priced at? He's probably going to go up 9K, then have a break even of like 55, and then an 88 again. That beats it by 33, so that's probably going to go up by 25K. So he's going to be maybe up 40K for what's he priced at now. He's going to be 670 coming out of the bye. And if he's going 90, and Heath Chapman has failed or something like that, you could honestly just flip him straight to Kitty Coleman. So I think that there's just so much room. And honestly, with Kitty Coleman as well, you're going to have the bounce back effect of the not having the... With the way it works, I'm pretty sure it's going to work this way, is that he's going to have the 70 break even. So he's going to have to beat, I think, 140, rather than if he goes 88, that'll bring his break even down to something like 55 or something for the second game. So he's effectively got to go 125 across. If it was normal, I think he'd have to only beat 125 if he was going at 88. Whereas if he, like, it's hard to explain, but I think there's a slight price differential negatively influencing it just because of the way the round 0 pricing is going to work. So I do think there is a slight negative there, but which will help people get Kitty Coleman after the buys. But I don't think he's going to go. I personally don't think he's going to do the sort of 110 that people are expecting because of his last 2 performances. I think that was just a sort of outlier. Not really an outlier, but necessarily just sometimes. One of them was an outlier. The 100 and a half was an outlier. I don't think that's going to happen at all regularly. Like his highest for the year was 111, then he's gone 106 and 127 in the finals. So I think he's going to average the 85 to 90. I'm just wondering, are we going to get burnt from not picking him in the first couple rounds? Because I don't think you will necessarily get burnt from not picking him in round 1. Say he goes 110, you're burning maybe 30 points, but then you've got the bye. Whereas if he goes like a 60, then you might even lose value. So I just think there's too much risk in Kitty Coleman with such an early bye actually failing and not really producing the points that you need from him, as he is taking up a large chunk of the coin. And sort of you have to differentiate between the rounds 2 and 3 and the rounds 5 and 6 buys that we have. So I just wouldn't be going Kitty Coleman, and I'd be jumping on him if he does end up producing in the last sort of in the first couple rounds, in round 0, 1, and then you can pick him up in round 3 after you've got another week of cash gen, and then you can potentially even just start upgrading from. You can potentially flip Zach Williams up to him if Zach Williams isn't necessarily working. You can flip up Heath Chapman potentially up to him as well. So there's plenty of guys that you can flip up to him if he does end up going 90, 95 or something like that in the first couple games of the year and producing what we sort of expect him to produce. I just think that there's too much risk in picking him early, him potentially going bad in round 1, not producing the points that you want, and then you're sort of stuck with him for you're not getting the cash in early that you need out of players, basically, is what I'm trying to say with Kitty Coleman, which is the major risk, I guess. And with that early buy, you're not really getting value for points, to be honest, if you if you pick him and he fails, to be honest. And there is a massive differentiation between rounds 2 and 3 buys and rounds 5 and 6, because rounds 5 and 6, the value players will have most likely over time generated enough good scores to outproduce the average of the previous year to, I guess, get a good cash gen. Whereas with Kitty Coleman, you got 2 performances there. There is a high likelihood that one of the performances he gets like a 60 or something, and then you're stuck with him with a 60, and he would need like an 80 or something like that, an 85, 90 just to break even. And so you don't really have much cash gem potential. Whereas guys like Grundy or something like that, priced very similar, have 5 or 6 games to outproduce it and just need they can have that 1 or 2 bad games across the 6 rather than the 2 that Kitty Coleman has. Then we move on. We can basically skip through all of these guys. I looked a little bit at Jasper Fletcher, but mid-only. Don't think he can really step it up too much. He does have a lot of sub-affected games as well, but mid-only. Don't really like the look of it when I am going guns and rookies in the the midfield itself. So yeah, Jasper Fletcher is not sort of being looked at. If he had the forward status, then I would, but he is a mid-only. And if we look at the CBAs, it looks as though Fletcher is playing on a wing. If I just quickly bring up Fletcher here, you'll probably see it. It looks like he's playing a wing half-forward sort of role if I bring it up. And I don't need this ad if it will go away. And then we go down to here, and you can sort of see this wide range, almost actually a wing half-back role rather than and then he's had this weird sort of forward role here. But yeah, 0 CBAs, 1 kick-in as well here when he played majority half-back. So it will be interesting to see his role come next year, but I would like to see him get a wing role, but I don't know if they will allow that. But he definitely does have the scoring, not really the scoring potential. If I actually look at this, I just want to see, will this actually show up? I think it will. So if we just go here and just sort of do this, you'll see in the VFL 10 games, 64 average. So he is plus 14 in the VFL. So there is potential upside, but you can just see with this time on ground sub here and a lot of interchange. So he only actually had one actual sub game. I thought it was more. You can see here sort of 2 sub-ish games here with time on ground being so low, but yeah, not much value in Jasper Fletcher. I actually thought it was, so it must be someone else that has that ridiculous sub-induced sort of average. Maybe it was one of the Sydney boys or something. Then we go down here, no one really relevant, and then the last guy that's actually relevant for the whole Brisbane side is Devon Robinson. And this is Devon Robinson, I bet, is the guy that I was thinking of when I was looking at guys that have sub-induced games. Was it? Let me just see here. You can see here, sub here. So 2 sub games. And then just a lot of just half-forward, sort of half-forward work here. A 21 here as well. That was really poor. But yeah, just looking at this and just seeing him you can sort of almost take, if you take the sub games out, which a lot of people don't like me doing, then he gets only, he gets up towards, let me just quickly work this out quickly. What's his actual fantasy points scored last year? 502. 502 minus the, if we go back over to here, minus the 34 equals that, and then divide it by the 14 games. If you take out the sub games, I probably messed this up completely, probably. Because he's got the scores in the finals as well. 502 divided by, how many games has he got here? 13, so divided by 11. If you take out the sub games, he's up to 45. There's already points scoring probably available. And then if you actually look at the player summaries here and you go to his games in the finals, you see here he did get a little bit of CBAs in this game. So this is just an outlandish sort of pick, it probably looks like, to have him in my side, but you can sort of see what I'm looking at in the final 2 games of the year. He went 47 and 55, so not much, but I just think that maybe with him signing a new contract, I believe he signed a new contract because West Coast were chasing him, that he'll get a better role in the Brisbane side. And you can see in the VFL, when he does play VFL, he absolutely goes crazy. So hopefully they actually use him in the, look at this. This is a consistent VFL. These are all his VFL games that he's played. He has played over the last 2 years of footy. He's played 20 games in the VFL for a 110. So it shows that he can score. And I think just maybe with Jared Lyons, Zorko and stuff slowing down, just maybe can he get the that 4th midfielder spot. If you look at this, with Ashcroft out for half this season, Zach Bailey more preferred in there, it looks like, but I'm hoping that Robertson can get that role, but I guess we'll see in round 0, and sort of he is vying off with like Finn McRae and stuff like that currently for that sort of F5 spot, where they just sort of make a quick cash. And I'm more receptive to using this round 0 sort of rookie guys that have the earlier buy and stuff like that, and all of the round 0 guys that are rookie priced or mid prices, because they have that they have the double cash gen very, very early. Yes, they do have the buy, but you can almost go, yeah, I want 2 games of Devon Robinson if he performs well in round 0, and he'll get, say he gets like an 80 in round 0, then he's automatically going to go up in price, basically, unless he gives away like 10 free kicks in the second game, because he's priced, what's he priced at? He's priced at 38. That would mean that he'd have to clear, he's going to have to clear 77 in the first 2 games. If he gets an 80, he's already automatically in profit. And at 348k, if he say he even gets a stinker in round 1 of like a 40 or a 50, you can probably almost hide him on the bench and use almost loopholes to, well, I wouldn't be using it, but you can almost just look at that and just with an 80 in round 0, just you wouldn't care about the 40 in round 1 or something like that, or a 50 in round 1, because he's making like 30k or something like that. And then you can just honestly use him as a, you can almost guarantee 20, 30, 40k easy, and then just trade him out or something like that if he has a stinker, or just hold him if he has a good game. So that's sort of what I'm thinking of with the rookies and stuff like that from round 0. Compare that to like Kitty Coleman that we were talking about, where you almost need the points. It's a lot more riskier. And I've been saying this throughout the whole season, throughout the whole preseason. With the, it's a lot easier for Devon Robinson to have a 20-point jump than it is for the likes of a Kitty Coleman, as Kitty Coleman is, well, Devon Robinson we've already seen without sub games is a 45, 46 point scorer, which is already +8, whereas Kitty Coleman doesn't have that in general. Plus also it's a lot easier just to get 20 points of upside when you have, from a role change for Devon Robinson, given his VFL form where he averages, 110 through 20 games. So this one is more just of a wait and watch with him, as round 0 could definitely spike his ownership or kill his ownership, to be honest with you. But he's definitely in the conversation, just given how weak this forward line is. But I may end up going someone like a Sean Manor or something like that if he ends up debuting round 1 rather than a Devon Robinson. But that is just a wait and watch with that. But yes, Devon Robinson is one that I'm looking at. But all depends on round 0 basically for a lot of these lines, guys, because obviously if Kitty Goldman goes like 140 in round 0 or 150, then you can almost just pick him up because he'll go. I don't expect him, unless for injury, to go less than like 65 or 60 in a game. So that would basically automatically put him at like 50k profit, and then you can just trade him out. Or hold him if he goes even nuts again. So yeah, it's just all about round 0 basically for all of these Brisbane guys. I know that I basically spent 25 minutes saying that it will be all about round 0. But that's for the mid prices and the rookies. Josh Dunkley, just don't see there being much value in general. And then also he's got the round 0 bye, which is just burning 50 points basically. I don't see him having 2.5 points or 3 points of upside across the whole season on top of all the other guys that I've got in there anyway. So that's the reason against going Josh Dunkley, Lachie Neale. Even McCluggage itself, I don't see there being much upside there. But I do think that there is a potential shift for Robertson or Jasper Fletcher potentially as well, or someone down there in the sort of that has experience in the VFL midfield group or something, or a distributing defender, as if they get the role that we need in the best 22 for best 23 for Brisbane, then they'll definitely jump up 20-25 points. But that is basically the long-winded Brisbane Lions review. I probably went around in circles there across that whole review, but hopefully I at least showed you that there are a couple options even with their early buy, but just watch out for getting sucked in if they do have maybe a major score in round 0 as well. Getting sucked in because that might just be an outlier or something like that if they don't necessarily have the greatest role. But anyway, that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the Adelaide preview tomorrow. Bye, guys.